Once again, you wake up without energy, without strength, and with that overwhelming feeling that life is running over you. Don't worry, you're not alone. Of course, no one shares this on their Instagram stories, right? We've gotten used to pretending that everything is fine, while deep down we feel like something inside us is falling apart. But let me tell you a truth that few dare to express. You're not broken, you're disconnected. And that, my friend, has a solution. Because when everything feels heavy, when it seems like you can't go on, there is still something within your power to pause, take a breath, reflect, and reconnect with yourself. Stoic philosophy doesn't offer you eternal happiness or miraculous solutions, but it does remind you of something fundamental. You don't have control over everything that happens, but you do have control over how you choose to respond. And believe me, that changes everything. So before you throw in the towel, listen closely. You are not alone, and you are far from finished. You just need to refocus on what truly matters. But before we dive into the main content, I want you to listen to this story that clearly illustrates the wisdom within this message. Martin, 36 years old. He had a good salary, a fancy car, and an impeccable image in the eyes of others. But every night upon arriving home, he would shed that image, collapse onto the couch, and be overwhelmed by a sense of emptiness he didn't know how to describe. Nothing excited him. Not his achievements, not the social media validation, not the Friday night outings. Everything sounded like noise. Everything felt mechanical. Until one day his mind and body said, "Enough." A silent breakdown forced him to stop, and in the middle of that collapse he decided to do something that felt completely irrational. Go for a walk with no phone, no destination, just him and his thoughts. After a while, he sat on a bench, took a deep breath, and asked himself a question he had never dared to ask. What am I really looking for? He didn't get the answer that day, nor the week after. But for the first time in many years, he stopped running. The lesson this story leaves us is simple but powerful. Sometimes when you feel like you're falling apart, you're actually starting to rebuild. Collapse doesn't always mark the end. Sometimes it's the very point where your most authentic transformation begins. And now, before we move on to the first lesson, if you find this type of content valuable, I invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated on upcoming posts. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Emotional emptiness. Modern life is filled with constant stimuli, but if you pause for just a moment, you'll probably notice something you don't always want to see. No matter how much you try to fill that hole you feel inside, there's always a space left unfilled. Neither work, nor social media, nor even food or entertainment can truly fill that inner void. And here's a truth that few dare to say out loud. That emptiness is more common than you think. We all feel it at some point in our lives, even if we don't always admit it openly. The first thing you need to understand is this. Don't fool yourself. You're not a weirdo, and you're definitely not broken. Emotional emptiness is a human experience that touches all of us at some point. We live in a time where we're constantly pressured to be happy, to be successful, and to showcase a perfect life online. That pressure disconnects us from what's truly essential. That constant need for external approval and instant gratification only leaves us with a long-term sense of emptiness. It's like trying to fill a glass with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much you pour, it never fills. We've been led to believe that we must have everything figured out by a certain age. That we should always be busy, always smiling, as if there's a magic formula for living a full and meaningful life. But reality is different. That emptiness you feel could simply be a sign that you're disconnected from yourself, from your true needs, from your deepest desires. And before you think all is lost, let me tell you something. There are ways to reconnect. Emotional exhaustion isn't always obvious at first. Sometimes it disguises itself as regular fatigue, a need for a vacation, or I'm just a little stressed. But if you're honest with yourself, you'll recognize when what you're feeling runs deeper. Some clear signs are feeling trapped in a routine that doesn't satisfy you, having difficulty concentrating, feeling disconnected even from the people closest to you, or starting to believe that nothing really makes sense. And the most dangerous part of all this is that you may begin to believe that emptiness is permanent, that the feeling of being incomplete is your new normal. But here's the twist. It's not. When you feel drained, shut down, or like everything is falling apart, remember this well. It's not the end of the road. It's a signal. Maybe you just need to adjust your course. Maybe you've been chasing something that deep down isn't even yours. And no, you don't need to go on a spiritual journey to the Himalayas or live a supernatural experience to find yourself. Sometimes, it's enough to change the way you look at things, not necessarily the things themselves. Stoic philosophy, for example, teaches us exactly that. True change happens when we transform our perspective, not when we try to change everything around us. Sometimes the solution lies in something as simple as stopping, taking a pause. Don't underestimate the power of sitting in silence for a few minutes. Turn off the world's noise and listen to what's inside you. You might find more answers there than you expect. Another key step is learning to face what makes you uncomfortable. You might avoid feeling certain emotions because they're unpleasant or painful. And yes, at first that may seem like relief, but in the long run it only makes the emptiness grow larger. We need to learn to accept what we feel even if we don't like it, even if it hurts. Because repressing it doesn't make it go away, it only stores it for later, and it comes back stronger. It's also important that you do something just for yourself. Not because it serves a practical purpose or because you need to achieve something with it. Do it simply because it makes you feel good. Not everything in life has to have a productive outcome. Sometimes just enjoying something without expectations is enough to give you back a sense of peace. And finally, it's vital to learn how to identify what you can't control. This is one of the core teachings of Stoicism. True peace comes when you stop spending energy on what doesn't depend on you. Let go of what's out of your hands, and focus your attention on what you can do. That's where you can truly make a difference. That's where you reclaim your power. Emotional emptiness is not the end of the world, even though it may feel like it is. It's just an alarm, an invitation to pause, to look inward, and to return to yourself. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need the courage to ask the right questions. Remember what the Stoics teach us. Life won't always be perfect, but we can find serenity in what we choose to do and how we face what we feel. The void only lingers when we stop listening to our true needs. Maybe it's time to listen. Lesson 2. The power of resilience. Have you ever felt a deep emptiness inside you? As if each day is just a routine that begins when you lift your head off the pillow and ends by counting the minutes until night comes? If so, you're not alone. Even though no one says it openly, we've all been there. That feeling of being trapped in a maze with no exit, no energy to go on, with a gray cloud hanging over every thought, every corner of your mind. But there's something important you need to know. That emptiness, though uncomfortable, painful, and terrifying, doesn't mean it's the end. It's just a phase. And even if you don't believe it now, it could mark the beginning of something much greater. The capacity for resilience that we possess as human beings is truly amazing. If you've ever doubted it, it's time to think again. We have an almost magical ability to resist, adapt, and most of all, to find strength even in the moments where it seems like there's nothing left. Of course, it's not a simple process. No one promises that the road will be easy or that the sun will shine after every storm. Sometimes the challenges feel so overwhelming they take your breath away. And it's precisely in those moments when you most need to remember this. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. Stoic philosophy emphasizes this point. Difficulties themselves aren't the real problem. What truly matters is how you choose to face them. The philosopher Epictetus put it clearly. It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. So when you feel like you're out of strength, like you can't go on, remember that the most important battle isn't happening outside, it's happening in your mind. Isn't that a powerful shift in perspective? You don't need to develop a superpower or find a magical solution. Sometimes all you need is to look at things from a different angle. And step by step, you'll notice how what once felt impossible begins to fall into place. Don't get it wrong. Being resilient doesn't mean everything will be okay overnight. It doesn't mean you erase sadness with a fake smile or pretend everything's fine when it's clearly not. Resilience means knowing that even in the darkest stretches of the road, there's always a spark of light, however small, that can guide you forward. There are thousands of real-life stories that prove this. Stories of ordinary people, just like you, who were on the brink of collapse. People who lost everything in a natural disaster. Those who battled devastating illnesses or experienced irreparable losses. They all went through grief, pain, confusion, but they also found a way to move forward. Maybe it wasn't easy. Maybe they stumbled many times along the way. But they did it. Because in the end, life isn't about avoiding the fall. It's about learning how to rise after every one of them. It's true that sometimes all we need is a spark to push us, a phrase that shakes us from within and brings back the hope we can keep going. Here are a few reflections that might help you. The only thing standing between you and your goal is you. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass, but learning to dance in the rain. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Sure, maybe these quotes won't change your life instantly, but they might help you see that the emptiness isn't forever. And what can change is how you choose to face it. Because when everything turns dark, when you feel empty and drained, the most important thing to remember is this: you are not alone. Resilience lives inside you. You may not see it now, but it's there, waiting for you to trust it. And yes, Stoic philosophy can become a powerful ally. It teaches us to accept what we can't control and to strengthen our attitude toward life. It invites us to stop fighting the inevitable and to focus on what does depend on us. So the next time you feel like you can't keep going, pause and think. What breaks you is not what happens, it's how you choose to face what happens. Remember, the only thing standing between you and success is the idea that you can't go any further. Lesson 3. Inner dialogue. Have you ever felt as if someone had switched off the power inside you? As if all the energy that once kept you standing vanished in an instant, without warning, leaving you stranded in an ocean of sadness and endless exhaustion? It's that state where everything seems meaningless and just getting out of bed becomes a monumental feat. The world keeps turning, people carry on with their lives, but you don't have the strength to keep up. Sound familiar? Then pay close attention, because if you're reading this, it means you're still here. And no, I'm not here to give you another empty piece of advice about looking on the bright side or smiling no matter what. What I want to share with you goes much deeper than that. I want to talk to you about something fundamental: your inner dialogue. That internal voice that never seems to go silent and that often speaks louder than your conscious thoughts. That voice holds much more power than you imagine. When you're going through moments of sadness and emotional fatigue, it's common for that inner voice to turn into your harshest critic. It starts telling you that you're worthless, that nothing is going right, that you have no future, that your life is meaningless. And if you don't do anything to stop it, that voice eventually becomes an echo that slowly drags you toward emotional collapse. This is where the true power of emotional regulation comes into play. It's not a simple process, I know. But the good news is that you're not doomed to live under the rule of that negative voice. You don't have to resign yourself to feeling bad all the time. The Stoics, those wise thinkers from ancient Greece, taught us that we are responsible for our thoughts, and that what we feel is closely tied to how we interpret what happens to us. In other words, it's your internal dialogue that determines whether you sink or find a way to rise to the surface. So start here. Pause, breathe, and feel. It may seem basic, but it's actually profoundly transformative. We live in fast forward, on autopilot, without stopping to observe what we're truly feeling. It's urgent that we pause, hit the brakes, and reconnect with our bodies. Sadness and exhaustion don't always have a clear or logical cause. Sometimes all we need is to give ourselves permission to feel, without judgment. It's not about suppressing the emotion or covering it up with distractions. It's about welcoming it, allowing it to exist, and in that space of acceptance, opening the door to a new perspective. A very helpful tool for shifting that inner narrative is what's known as cognitive restructuring. At its core, it's about challenging those automatic negative thoughts and replacing them with ones that are more balanced and realistic. If your mind keeps repeating that everything is lost, pause and ask yourself, is everything really lost? Or am I just seeing one part of what's happening? This kind of questioning can make a big difference in how you feel. The key is to observe what's happening inside your mind without letting it take full control over your emotional state. Another deeply effective practice is meditation. You don't need to become a guru or sit for hours in lotus position. Just dedicating a few minutes a day to calm your mind and reconnect with yourself can make a world of difference. The Stoics also deeply valued the habit of daily reflection and emotional mastery. They understood that a peaceful mind is a strong mind, and that mental strength doesn't come from avoiding pain, but from learning to live with it without letting it consume you. So the next time you feel emotionally drained, the first thing you should do is stop. Don't keep running aimlessly. Don't chase a happiness that feels out of reach. Stop. Listen to what you're feeling. Acknowledge what your body is telling you, what you're thinking, what you're keeping inside. And then, shift your focus. Transform your inner dialogue. Because in the end, the power to change how you feel isn't out there. It's within you. When it feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, remember this. Burdens become lighter when you learn to carry them calmly. Lesson 4. Find your purpose. Have you ever woken up with that question lingering in your mind? What's the point of all this? It's not just an existential doubt. It's a silent scream that rises from deep within the soul. You look in the mirror and no longer see the person you used to recognize. You see someone who seems to have forgotten who they are. The energy has faded. The motivation has vanished. And meaning, well, meaning seems to have blown away with the last storm. If you've ever felt this way, let me say it again. You're not alone. And while I'm not here with a magic wand to paint the world in rainbows and fill your life with unicorns, I do have something valuable to share with you. The Stoics went through this too. They just handled it with more serenity and less drama. First, breathe. Before you rush to Google for quick answers, try something more challenging. Be honest with yourself. Life doesn't follow a perfect script. We've been sold the idea that everything has to have a grand purpose, a glorious reason that justifies it all. But the truth is, it doesn't always work that way. Not everything in life has to be a mystical journey or a transcendent experience. And if you stop to think about it, have you ever demanded a plant explain its reason for being? No, it just grows, without overthinking. So why should we be so different? The Stoics taught us to focus on what we can control. They weren't into sugarcoating or complicating things with useless ideas. If something had no solution, they simply accepted it. And if life doesn't give you clear answers, don't just sit there waiting for a magical sign. Do something with what you have right now. But don't drown in a glass of water searching for meanings that may not exist yet. Purpose doesn't fall from the sky like divine enlightenment. It doesn't arrive by mail or show up as a high-priority notification in your inbox. Real purpose is built, little by little, day by day. Sometimes it simply means continuing to walk even when everything seems to stand still. The meaning of life isn't found once and for all. It's discovered by making each day matter. You don't need a deep philosophical explanation for that. In the hardest moments, don't seek grand answers. Look for the small things, the ones you can hold on to today, the ones that connect you to the present moment. Sometimes an ordinary day, nothing special, can be the most important, if you can find something in it that makes you smile. Not everything needs to be an epic quest for absolute truth. The real power lies in doing the best you can with what you have now. So what should you do when sadness or fatigue overwhelms you? Maybe the solution isn't a radical transformation, but a small shift in focus. The key isn't to seek complicated answers. It's to return to the present. Start with the basics. Take a deep breath. It's not an ancient secret, but it can make a difference. In moments of overwhelm, your breath anchors you. It brings you back to the here and now. Inhale for 5 seconds, hold for 5 more, and exhale for another 5. Repeat. Do it a few times. It may not seem like much, but sometimes it's exactly what you need. Then do something small. Something so simple you don't even have to think about it. Make your bed, write a to-do list, wash a dish. It might feel insignificant, but accomplishing something, even something small, has the power to pull you out of that mental fog. Those tiny wins add up, and slowly they stop you from feeling so lost. At the same time, practice gratitude. Think of 3 things you're grateful for today. They don't have to be big. Maybe it's the smell of coffee, your pet's greeting, or the fact that someone thought of you. Sometimes it's those tiny details that remind us there's still beauty, even in the middle of chaos. And finally, accept the present moment. Life doesn't have to be extraordinary to have value. Being present, even in sadness, in fatigue, or in doubt, is enough. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be present in who you are today. So when everything feels hollow, when purpose feels distant and life seems meaningless, remember this. Existence isn't made up of grand revelations. It's built on small actions, honest acceptance, and the courage to move forward even when you can't see the road clearly. The Stoics understood this well. If you can't change what's happening, change the way you look at it. Because in the end, meaning isn't found in the destination. It's in the way you choose to walk the path. Lesson 5. The impermanence of pain. If you've ever had one of those days when everything seems to fall apart, when you ask yourself if you truly deserve a break from all the chaos, then welcome. You're not alone. We've all been there. Bad days, the ones where life feels like it's tossing you around like a ball with no direction, are inevitable. But there's something that great sages, like the Stoics, reminded us of time and time again. Everything passes, even pain. And if you can engrave that truth into your mind, those dark days won't feel so eternal. Suffering, whether emotional or physical, is like a gray cloud that covers a clear sky. From below, it seems massive, overwhelming, almost apocalyptic. But here's the secret, that cloud also moves. Nothing lasts forever. Not the deepest pain, nor the most fleeting happiness. What feels today like the world is against you could be just a distant memory tomorrow. And if you doubt that, think of moments in your past when you believed you'd never get out of that hole. What happened? Exactly. You're still here. Sometimes pain feels endless, but it always, in one way or another, fades. It might take minutes, hours, days, but it always transforms. The important thing to remember is that the feeling of being trapped is not eternal. When you feel down, unmotivated, exhausted, or disconnected from the world, what you're experiencing is an emotional and physical response to anxiety and stress. Your mind starts searching for logical explanations for what you're feeling, while your body simply reacts. Thoughts repeat like a broken record, and your energy vanishes as if someone flipped off an internal switch. Physiologically, something important is also happening. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is at its peak. That's what makes you feel more tired, less motivated, more fragile. But even that will pass. And the best part is, there are things you can do to help yourself. When you're going through one of those days where it feels like you can't take it anymore, start by remembering something fundamental. Your mind doesn't always tell the truth. It's easy to fall into the trap of negative thoughts. But a repeated idea doesn't become reality just because it's repeated. Thoughts are not facts. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes in. The lesson is not to eliminate pain, but to learn how to respond to it. You won't always be able to control what you feel in the moment, but you can learn to respond more consciously to what you're feeling. One of the first tools you can use is deep breathing. Yes, it sounds simple, but don't underestimate it. It has real, scientifically proven power. Breathing consciously calms your body, lowers cortisol levels, and anchors you to the present. When everything seems to be slipping through your fingers, something as simple as inhaling deeply for a few seconds, holding your breath, and exhaling slowly can restore a bit of peace. If you still feel overwhelmed, try doing something small that gives you a sense of accomplishment. You don't need to reach a big goal, just take a small step. Drink a glass of water, make your bed, read a paragraph, go for a short walk. Every action, no matter how simple, counts. And when you're in a low state, any improvement is meaningful. It's also vital to learn to accept what you're feeling without rejecting it. It's completely normal to have moments of sadness, fatigue, or confusion. There's nothing wrong with that. The key is not to get stuck in that emotion. Acknowledge what you feel. Give it space. Allow it to exist without judging it or trying to push it away. You'll see how, little by little, that weight becomes lighter, like a wave that reaches the shore and then recedes. So the next time pain makes you feel like there's no way out, remember this: it's just a phase. Life moves, changes, evolves. As the wise Epictetus once said, it's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Don't give too much weight to a moment of suffering. It's temporary, and you have the tools to get through it. Remember, clouds disappear too, even when it's hard to believe it. And everything you've lived, one way or another, has taught you something. The fiercest storm always has an end, and after it passes, the sun always returns, brighter than ever. Lesson 6. Regain your energy. Sometimes life feels like a never-ending race. From the moment the alarm goes off in the morning until you collapse at night, it seems like the day devours you without mercy. And there you are, staring at the ceiling, wondering how you got to this level of exhaustion. But let me tell you something. The answer isn't just in lack of sleep or too much coffee. What's really draining you goes much deeper. It's something subtler, something that slowly saps your energy without you even noticing. So pay close attention, because what I'm about to share with you could change everything. The secret to regaining your energy when you feel like you have nothing left. Sure, the first thing that comes to mind is work, obligations, never-ending tasks. But is that really all? Imagine for a moment that you're a car. No offense, of course. You can blame the fuel, sure. But you also have to consider the conditions you're driving in. Your body and your mind function like an engine that can overheat, or a battery that's constantly drained without time to recharge. Chronic stress, nonstop worry, constant anxiety, and the pressure to always be available for everyone. These are the real energy thieves. It's like you're carrying an invisible backpack full of emotional stones that keeps you from moving forward lightly. Now think, if you were training for a marathon, wouldn't you sleep well? Wouldn't you rest between sessions? Well, life, even if it doesn't always feel like it, is also a marathon. We just forget that sometimes. Rest and self-care aren't luxuries or excuses. They are essential tools if you want to recover your vitality. And no, I'm not talking about sleeping 6 hours and assuming that's enough, because real rest isn't just physical, it's emotional and mental too. When was the last time you truly disconnected from the noise? And no, I don't mean scrolling on your phone while watching a show. I mean real rest. Reading slowly, meditating for a few minutes, or simply sitting in silence, doing nothing. Far from making you less productive, this kind of rest can bring back your clarity, energy, and perspective. So, how can you restore your energy when you feel completely drained? This is where the magic of intentional habits comes in. When exhaustion and sadness take over, remember this: the power to get out of it is in your hands. Instead of staying stuck in dark thoughts, do something small but powerful. Go for a walk. Breathe fresh air. Move your body, not to change how it looks, but to release built-up tension. And if you want to give this practice more depth, turn to Stoic philosophy. The Stoics taught us that serenity comes from accepting what we cannot change and focusing on what we can control. Not everything is up to you, that's true. But your attitude toward what you're experiencing is. And that simple shift in mindset can free you from many unnecessary burdens. It's also essential to understand the importance of setting boundaries. Don't let the world consume you. People can wait. Your well-being is non-negotiable. Practice saying no without guilt. Prioritize yourself. It's a quiet but powerful way to regain your energy and find your center again. Remember this: life is not a competition, and many times the bravest thing you can do is to pause, breathe, and give yourself the rest you need to keep going. Don't let exhaustion become your default state. Resting, taking care of yourself, building healthy routines, and reconnecting with yourself isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. Because you can't give your best if you're empty inside. Lesson 7. Change your thoughts. Life has that curious habit of testing us when we least expect it. You know, just when everything seems to be going well, it falls apart. Relationships wobble, work loses meaning, health declines, and expectations fade. Suddenly, chaos wraps itself around everything. It happened to me. There was a moment when I felt completely disoriented, exhausted, unmotivated, like nothing was worth the effort. And of course, you start asking yourself, now what? Is this really all there is? The hardest part about those moments is that it feels like the entire universe has conspired to make you feel even worse. Like all the planets have aligned with one single purpose: to push you further down. But one day something changed. Someone, not even an expert, just an ordinary person, taught me a simple, unforgettable Stoic lesson. And here's what made it powerful. They didn't offer me a magic formula. They just taught me one very simple thing: change your perspective. Sounds easy, right? Sure, when you read it like that in a few lines, it seems like a piece of cake. But the truth is, that small shift in how you think has the power to completely transform your life. That person told me something I've never forgotten. Life isn't about what happens to you, but how you choose to interpret it. And that sentence, however simple it may sound, is pure gold. You can't control every situation, every obstacle, or every loss, but you can choose how to respond to it. So if you ever feel like everything is against you, remember this: not everything is lost. Sometimes what looks like a disaster is actually the doorway to a chance to grow. Believe me, the worst thing isn't what happens, it's how you handle it. This is where the concept of reframing comes in. No, it's not a magic trick or shallow self-help. It's a real, powerful tool that means changing the mental frame through which you view a situation. Imagine you're looking at a painting. If you're too close, all you see are smudges, but if you take a few steps back, the full picture starts to take shape. That's the trick: creating emotional distance, seeing things from another angle, and suddenly what seemed so terrible doesn't look so threatening anymore, or at least it becomes manageable. The next time you find yourself trapped in a spiral of sadness or exhaustion, remember this: you can't always change what's happening, but you can choose what to do with what you're feeling. You can see the glass half empty or half full. And no, it's not about forcing yourself to always think positively. That would be denying reality. It's about recognizing that your thoughts deeply influence how you experience life. Stoic philosophy reminds us of this with great wisdom. It's not about running from pain or avoiding difficulties, but facing them with a calm and clear mind. As the Stoics taught, true power isn't about controlling the outside world. It's about governing your thoughts. And while that might sound like a simple comfort on a bad day, the truth is, it changes everything. Because that's where true freedom lies, in how you choose to react to what life brings your way. What marked a before and after moment in my life wasn't some mystical revelation or unexpected miracle. It was simply realizing that things aren't always what they seem. It all depends on the angle from which you choose to look. And that idea, as simple as it may seem, can change everything. So if you ever find yourself going through a dark moment, don't forget this: the power to transform your reality begins with a change in how you think. It might not be easy, but it is, without a doubt, the most real way to find a bit of light in the midst of darkness. Because in the end, life isn't what happens to you, it's how you choose to see it. Lesson 8. Emotional validation. You've probably experienced it before. You wake up and from the very start of the day, it feels like everything is working against you. One obstacle after another until you reach that point where you can only think, I can't take this anymore. Your energy slips through your fingers like water, and all you want is to disappear, to sleep, to forget everything. Life definitely doesn't always come with color filters or movie-like moments. Sometimes it feels like a downward spiral you just can't stop. But hear me clearly. It's okay not to be okay. In the middle of that mental chaos, we often forget something deeply human. Feeling exhausted, sad, or unmotivated is part of life. We live in a society that pushes us to be perfect. It demands we have everything under control, be productive, and smile all the time. And when we fall short of those unrealistic expectations, we start to believe something is wrong with us. But the truth is, there's nothing broken in you for feeling bad. What we're not told enough is that validating our emotions is essential. Feeling sad, frustrated, or scared from time to time doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The real problem starts when we try to hide it all. When we mask pain with a fake smile. When we believe we don't have the right to feel bad. It's time to let go of that forced perfection. Even the wise Stoics knew this. To them, life was like a roller coaster full of ups and downs, and they accepted sadness and fatigue as essential parts of the journey. Because only by recognizing the hard moments can we truly appreciate the good ones. Now, accepting that you're not okay is only the first step. Next, it's time to take action. Sometimes a few deep breaths can be the difference between exploding or staying calm, and this is no cliché. Your body responds to what your mind believes. If you let your mind spiral, your body will feel it. One incredibly simple but powerful technique is conscious breathing. Breathe in deeply, hold your breath for a few seconds, and exhale slowly, letting go of the tension. Repeat several times. It might seem like nothing, but it's almost like rebooting your nervous system. Don't underestimate the power of intentional breathing. Ancient wisdom recognized that controlling your breath was a way of controlling your emotions. Another helpful tool is anchoring meditation. It's about reconnecting with the present moment, being here now without drifting into that whirlwind of dark thoughts. If your mind starts filling with negativity, shift your focus to what you can touch, see, or hear. Can you hear the rain? Feel the texture of your clothes? That's anchoring. And even if you don't expect it, it can bring immediate relief. When you feel drained, empty, like life is steamrolling over you, remember something crucial. Everything passes. Life is cyclical. And as gray as today may seem, the sun can shine again tomorrow. Hope is not fantasy. It's a constant reminder that struggles are part of the process. Just like winter gives way to spring, you too can make it through your emotional winters. And come out stronger on the other side. When you feel like you've lost your way, tell yourself, today is just one chapter. The book is still being written. And if you start to believe you no longer have the energy to go on, remember this. Humans have an astonishing capacity for resilience, often far greater than we realize. You are not a machine. You don't have to pretend nothing affects you. Having vulnerable moments doesn't make you weaker, and it makes you real. Stoic philosophy teaches us that life is full of ups and downs, and that the key isn't to avoid pain, but to learn how to handle it wisely. So if you ever feel like you just can't go on, breathe. Remember that acceptance and conscious action are your best allies. Find hope in what's ahead, and keep walking. Because even if today it seems impossible, everything passes. And in the end, what truly matters isn't how many times you fall. It's how you choose to rise. Lesson 9. Emotional exhaustion. At some point, you've probably felt completely drained, and without any clear reason. It's not that you didn't sleep well or that your body is worn out from lack of rest. It's something deeper, something invisible yet powerful. A type of fatigue that doesn't come from your muscles but from your emotions. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking you're weak, that maybe you're just not built to handle everything life throws your way. But let me tell you this, you're not weak, you're just tired. Tired of carrying emotions you don't know how to process. Tired of surviving in a world that often seems to pressure you from every angle. And that distinction makes all the difference. First, let's clear up something important. Sadness, depression, and emotional exhaustion are not the same, though sometimes they're intertwined. Sadness is that fleeting feeling that shows up when something doesn't go as planned. It hurts, but it eventually fades. Depression, on the other hand, is like an unwelcome guest who moves in without asking and slowly alters everything you do, sometimes without you even noticing. But emotional exhaustion, that's a different beast. It's an invisible weight that follows you day after day. It doesn't come from running a marathon, but from constantly battling your thoughts, your feelings, your inner doubts. It's the weariness of always being on edge, of surviving but not really living. This kind of exhaustion shows up subtly but persistently. Your body starts sending signals. You sleep more hours but never feel truly rested. Your muscles stay tense for no apparent reason. Your mind won't stop buzzing like a TV channel that won't turn off. So how do you deal with this? There's no magic solution, we know that. But the Stoics already understood this. The mind and body are deeply connected. What you do for one will always affect the other. So what can you do when everything feels heavier than you can carry? Here's where we often make the most common mistake, trying to do it all alone. We think asking for help means giving up. But in reality, asking for help is an act of courage. Imagine you're carrying a backpack full of rocks. Asking someone to help you carry it doesn't make you weaker. Quite the opposite. It shows you're wise enough to know you don't have to carry it all by yourself. You can lean on a friend, a family member, a professional. Sharing what you're carrying lightens the load more than you realize. The first step is accepting that it's okay not to be okay. Acknowledging that you need a break doesn't make you less capable. On the contrary, it's a powerful act of self-care and emotional maturity. So the next time you feel like the world is collapsing on top of you, remember this. You're not weak, you're just exhausted, and your mind and body are urgently asking you to pause. Take the time for yourself. Seek support. Because true strength isn't about enduring everything in silence. It's about having the courage to recognize when you need help to keep going. Lesson 10. Start to feel alive again. Have you ever had those days when everything feels like a struggle? Those moments when even lifting your eyes from your phone feels like a feat, and doing the smallest task feels like climbing a mountain? I know, it's not pleasant. And the worst part is that in the middle of all that, it feels like you're trapped in a tunnel with no way out, waiting for something, anything, to give you a reason to keep going. But here's something important. What you really need isn't a miracle. It's not a grand revelation either. What you need are small steps, tiny goals, that help you reconnect with the things that once made you feel alive. Sometimes life feels like an endless obstacle course, but what if, instead of trying to jump over everything at once, you just focused on one step? Micro goals are like small stepping stones that, though they may seem insignificant, can take you further than you think. You don't need to win the marathon today. In fact, if you try, you'll probably collapse before the first mile. Instead, do something small. Get up and do one thing well. Maybe it's taking a shower, making a phone call, making your bed, or simply putting one foot in front of the other. That, no matter how small, gives you a sense of accomplishment. And when you're deep in discouragement, that's no small thing. The Stoics understood this. Life isn't measured by grand achievements, but by the ability to overcome small daily challenges. When you feel stuck in routine, try to remember what once brought you joy. Did you used to read? Dance? Enjoy watching the sunrise with a cup of coffee? It's time to reconnect with those little things that made you feel present. Yes, there will be days when everything feels like a burden. But if you make the effort to return to just one of those activities, no matter how small, you'll be taking a huge step toward the light. You don't have to become your old self overnight. This isn't about forcing anything, it's about searching for the part of you that still feels wonder. You might not succeed at first, but believe me, just the act of trying is already a powerful step forward. And when you feel empty, there's something simple you can do. Practice gratitude. Yes, it might sound cliché, but it works. Take a few minutes each day to reflect on what you still value. It doesn't have to be something huge. Maybe it's the smell of coffee, an unexpected message, or simply the fact that you're still here. That's enough. That matters. Also, remember the importance of connecting with others. We weren't made to live in isolation. A kind gesture, an honest conversation, a shared laugh. All of that can reignite the spark you thought you had lost. You won't always have the strength for big changes, but you don't need a radical transformation to feel alive again. You just need small victories and a little gratitude to start rebuilding yourself. The Stoics knew that true strength doesn't lie in the grand or dramatic. It lies in how you face the simple, difficult moments. So when everything feels like it's falling apart, do the only thing you can. Rebuild with what you have, step by step, no rush, but never give up. Lesson 11. The value of sadness. Have you ever found yourself staring at the horizon, feeling like sadness is an unwelcome visitor that refuses to leave? You're not alone. All of us at some point have lived through those gray days when it feels like all your energy has quietly vanished. But what if I told you that sadness isn't the monster we fear, but something more like a seed? A small one, maybe ugly and hard to accept, but one that holds the potential to give rise to a renewed version of yourself. Sadness, like the rain that soaks the soil before a flower blooms, has a deep purpose. It's not an obstacle, it's an opportunity in disguise. We live in a culture that has taught us pain is something to run from. We're told to avoid sadness, to hide it, cover it up, deny it. But the truth is that this deeply human and inevitable emotion has much to teach us. The Stoics, those wise thinkers who gave us a legacy of clarity and inner strength, understood this well. Pain is not the end of the road, it's a sign that something within us is evolving. When you feel dimmed, drained, or simply sad, remember this. Pain isn't just part of life, it can also be a catalyst for growth. Sound like a cliche? Maybe. But think about it. Every story of resilience has a dark chapter. A moment when sadness wasn't just a burden, it was the push that led to a rebirth. Imagine for a second that sadness is like a seatbelt. It's not there to limit you, but to protect you while you navigate the emotional turbulence of the road ahead. It's not about avoiding it, it's about learning to move with it, like someone who surfs a wave instead of being pulled under. So how do you turn that pain into something useful? The first step is acceptance. Yes, it sounds simple. But as with most simple things, doing it is the hardest part. To accept what you feel is to open the door to an uncomfortable emotion, with the intention of transforming it. It's the first step in turning what paralyzes you into something that moves you forward. The Stoics reminded us that while we can't control what happens outside of us, we can choose how we respond within. So instead of resisting it, try to listen to what sadness is here to teach you. Behind its fog, there may be a truth that pushes you to grow. Another powerful tool is shifting how you view pain. Think back. Surely there's a moment in your past that was hard, yet it taught you something meaningful. That's reflection. That's growth. Pain doesn't have to be just suffering. It can also be a door to a deeper understanding of yourself, a redefinition of your priorities, a transformation. And when you can see sadness this way, it stops being a silent enemy and becomes an unexpected ally. A teacher who, though tough, helps you reconnect with who you are. Of course, this doesn't mean you should go looking for pain or romanticize suffering. This isn't about glorifying discomfort. It's about not fearing it when it arrives. When it does, and it will, know that it's not a sign you're failing. It's a natural part of the human journey. Just like a tree that bends with the wind but doesn't break, you too can learn to endure the storm and continue growing toward the light. Sadness doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to show you something. And if you can learn to see it with new eyes, it may awaken parts of you that had been long forgotten. So if you ever find yourself caught in a wave of heavy emotion, remember this: no storm lasts forever. And in the heart of that darkness, a new clarity can be born. The wisdom of the Stoics invites us to see beyond the moment, to use pain as a compass, to let every sadness be a necessary turn in the plot of your life, one that prepares you for the next act. Because pain, though it doesn't define you, can shape you. if you dare to accept it. Lesson 12. Powerful affirmations. Sometimes life feels like a massive black hole that swallows everything I am. There's no energy, no motivation, not even a spark of who I once was. Sadness arrives unannounced, settles in the chest like a weight you don't know how to release, and suddenly everything feels like an uphill battle. So what happens when you've run out of strength? When getting out of bed feels impossible? When even breathing feels like too much? In those moments, there's something I repeat to myself. A series of thoughts that help keep me from falling completely into the void. A chain of powerful affirmations that hold me together when everything else seems to fall apart. The first is simple but powerful: this too shall pass. It's a mantra that reminds me that nothing lasts forever, not even the deepest pain. One of the most meaningful teachings I've learned from Stoic philosophy is that everything is temporary. Emotions, even intense ones, don't stay forever. Inner storms pass, just like the ones in the sky. Saying this isn't about denying my sadness, it's about recognizing that it's part of the journey, but it's not the end. No one can live in a constant state of crisis, just like no one can be joyful all the time. Life is a sequence of highs and lows, and what feels like a bottomless pit today may look like just a bump in the road tomorrow. Then I remind myself, I don't have to be okay all the time. This might be the hardest affirmation to accept, but it's also the most freeing. We're trapped in the idea that we must be happy, productive, and successful every day. We demand so much of ourselves that we forget being human also means being sad sometimes. There's nothing wrong with feeling fragile. Accepting negative emotions doesn't mean giving up, it means being aware and compassionate with yourself. Instead of fighting how I feel, I ask myself an honest question. What is this sadness trying to tell me? It's so easy to ignore it, to cover it up with distractions. But as the Stoics wisely teach, the key is not to escape, it's to reflect. Sadness isn't just a symptom. Often it's a warning sign. Am I avoiding something I need to face? Is there something in my life I need to change? Accepting that emotional discomfort has helped me make deep, honest assessments about what I truly want. Then I try to be there for myself without judgment. This step is vital, because one of the biggest mistakes we make when we're sad is judging ourselves for being sad. We tell ourselves things like, "Why do I feel like this? I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be over this by now." And all that does is pull us deeper. Instead of punishing ourselves for feeling, we should treat ourselves with the same tenderness we'd offer a friend. Self-compassion isn't weakness, it's emotional strength. Embracing our humanity is one of the most powerful things we can do. Finally, I tell myself, I am capable of getting through this. And I don't say it just to say it. I say it because it's true. I've made it through before. I've survived moments I swore I wouldn't be able to handle. Maybe not perfectly, but I'm still here. What defines a life isn't the challenges themselves, but how we choose to respond to them. And every time I repeat this affirmation, a little more hope sneaks into my mind. Because where there is hope, there is a way. Sadness isn't the end, even though sometimes it feels like it is. It's just one more phase in this journey we call life. A reminder that feeling is also living, and that those deep emotions connect us with who we are, and with others. What matters most isn't avoiding sadness, it's learning to walk with it, with compassion, with patience, with awareness. And when you feel completely at your limit, when you see no way out, remember this: you only need to take one small step forward, no more. Because the greatest transformations don't begin with grand gestures. They begin with tiny, almost invisible acts, but full of intention. Life isn't measured by moments of joy. It's measured by how we face moments of sorrow. If you've made it this far, comment below. Pain teaches you. It helps us know who truly connects with these messages. Feel free to subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a comment so digital platforms recognize this content as valuable for people like you. Your support is what keeps us creating more reflections like this. Thank you for being here. See you on our next journey.